there's a private section on the app. There's an ask segment where you can try, and September, very, very visible. And also, there's more usability now, and it's a faster way or method of verifying information. But also we talked about trying to make sure that we're tailoring information towards you as an individual. And also we talked about AI and human integration. We want AI and us individuals to work hand in hand to be able to combat mis and disinformation. Yeah. So this is our future, what we are seeing for the future. So one is, of course, while we're creating the app, we had the elections in mind, the 2026 elections, and we are going to circle back on that in case you'd want to partner in any way you can. We're going to be fact-checking the election, so please get in touch. Let's see how we can work together. Of course, we've had conversations with organizations like Africa Check and Full Fact AI. These are organizations that have seen the heat of elections in their countries, and they've been able to fact check in real time. So we are working back end with them to have a conversation to make sure that we're doing the same thing in this country. So in case you have any way of partnering, please let us know. Also, we are going to be sharing the tool and training journalists on how to use the tool in case they want to use it in the field or wherever they are, their place of convenience. Technical language over there, but our future strategies of how we're trying to get money. Of course, there'll be an advanced version where people, of course, pay for the tool to be able to use it, especially experienced journalists and fact checkers who really, really need the tool. Besides that, for everyone else, it will be a free, it will be an accessible tool. Yeah, that's all we had for you. Thank you so much.
Just don't be selfish with your hand claps, please. Yes, thank you so much, Bella. I hope that was very elaborate on how you can be able to, access the Debunk Verifier app. So we are still talking disarming mis and disinformation for media viability. And coming up next, I'm having a very, very short session on the post-training experience for those that have been able to attend the different trainings. And I'd like to welcome Jeannie Daniel in the building while they set up where the panel is going to be seated. Akulo Philly. The band, can we have a little music, please? And lastly, I'll be having Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. All right, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining this conversation. And I'm very delighted to be the one moderating this particular one. It happens to be the very last segment of this event, and I'm super, super excited. So particularly, we're just looking at the post-training experiences. And Edgar Matthew is a fact checker, a trainer at the Debunk Initiative. Guinea Daniel, you are a trainee. You attended the fact-checking trainings, and I've got you, Philly. You are an award-winning innovator, right? And you're working currently with Daily Monitor and NTV as a reporter. Good to have you. And I'll start first with Daniel. Danielle, as a trainee, reflecting on the skills you gained during your training, which ones have you found most useful when addressing misinformation or disinformation?
Thank you so much for this opportunity and the question you've posed. I will point out two important things. Of course, the entire package, we highly appreciated the entire package, and like several of the panelists have already said, our curriculum is totally lacking of that kind of content and package that Debunk Media Initiative gave us. So however much we appreciate the entire package, but two things stood out for me. Number one, the manifestation of misinformation and disinformation. Honestly, as a journalism student, I think I only knew propaganda and the rest, but some other things we consume, like satire, cartoons, we consume, at the end of the day, we laugh it off, and yet these are really manifestations of misinformation. And secondly, the entire process of fact-checking, the fact-checking process, to me it was a very interesting part of the content of the package, simply because I didn't know that when it comes to credibility of information, we can actually, we don't need advanced resources to check on credibility of information. We can actually look at the images with our eyes and identify physical locations and physical signs. We can actually look at who is posting the information and how the width of its sharing and who originated the information. So for me, that was two very interesting insights. However much the entire package was really helpful for my development. Thank you.
All right. Any significant challenge?
Yes. When it comes to challenge, because right now I am moving into the phase of employment and jobs and the rest. I think let me talk about challenges I anticipate I may get.
Well, I would say challenges in line with applying the skills you have actually learned.
Yes. The biggest challenge to me, and I don't know if my two colleagues have experienced it. In the training, we learned from, I think Bella or Rukia, we learned that there are sources of credible information we can go and check through. The ministries, the public agencies and the rest. But guess what? Most of them don't even have the information that we are looking for. Sometimes you find them quoting. There's a minister who was in the Public Accounts Committee and was quoting MTV on information that is in his ministry. So these MDAs don't have the information that we are looking for. So however much I see something online and I want to fact check it, the sources don't have it, and we have nowhere to go. And lastly on that, these MDAs, these government agencies and the rest, they don't even have in-house fact-checking groups. Or I don't know whether it's incorporated in their public relations departments, but they don't have their in-house fact-checking groups, where if there's a form of misinformation that is being targeted at a particular government agency, they themselves can't even come out to correct the information. So for me, those are the two biggest challenges I face.
Oh, yeah. I clearly see there's a gap there. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Danielle. And if I'm to bring you in, Philly, as a fact-checking innovator, I would love for you to tell us, how do you balance creativity with factual accuracy when you're creating stories that address misinformation?
Thank you so much. So before you're an innovator, you're actually a human being. Before you're an innovator, you are a human being. Our innovation is around using AI to debunk information around migration. So AI doesn't have the ability to tell between what's wrong and what's right, but human beings do. So in trying to be innovative, you also have to be a human being. You have feelings, you know what would happen if you put out wrong information. it would hurt someone. So yeah, that's how we try to draw the lines. Yeah.
Okay, can you provide any example of how your innovation has shifted perceptions or helped audiences identify, challenge misinformation?
So our innovation has humanized stories of marginalized groups, and it has, in the long run, helped to debunk all the misconceptions around them. And so we have had different organizations willing to partner with us and people willing to tell their stories even without us asking them. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fraley and Anna. Next to dear trainer Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Just a few questions here and there. I would like for you to tell us, in dealing with misinformation, what key insight or lesson would you share with someone new to the field?
Okay, thank you so much, Mahoro. What can I tell someone when they are dealing with disinformation and misinformation? First, that disinformation and or misinformation, or generally false information, travels through humor. In the jokes, in those images, really, they sound like they are memes. You call them memes, right? But they actually carry a story that is false, that can undermine the decision-making process of some individual. So that's one thing that stands out. The other issue is access to data. In this part of the world, it's very, very tedious to find data to debunk false information. Sometimes because of the bias that we have as a people, sometimes because of the leadership and construct, right? Yeah. Because some people feel when people have data or information, they will become smart. In Uganda, they say about jakubuka. So literally everything you want, you won't find it most of the times. That's why if we are debunking, let me say, issues around or claims around health, you'll end up using an expert from here, but the data is World Health Organization. When you go to UBOS, you're not going to find that data. And there is something they say that journalists, you have a right to data, information. You can go and get the information you want from anywhere. Yeah. That's in the books. But when you go on ground to look for this data, they will toss you around, especially when it's a fact check that is really hitting home. And because of that, sometimes we are limited in what we do. So some claims are dropped because of that. What else? What else? With now the age of artificial intelligence, the other issue is that it's difficult to discern. And it's becoming more tedious. In the past, we used to look at some of the inconsistencies. Maybe the image, what are these called? Fingers, they may be funny. Maybe the eye is not really. But now AI is able to do a real mahoro, really. So you look for all those clues, the contextual clues, and you won't find them. And at the end of the day, this is undermining the decision-making process of that 1 inch down there. So these are some of the issues that I can point out of it, but there are actually very many. And that's why I recommend anybody here who would love to be a fact checker to involve yourself into research. Read a lot. Try to teach yourself a lot of things. And these days we have the internet. It's like the university of some sort. So be curious enough to ask yourselves these questions. But those are some of the few insights that I can point out.
Right, maybe one more thing I would love for you to tell us is, what is the future of storytelling in the battle against misinformation? How do you envision it evolving with emerging media technologies?
Okay, how it's evolving? Of course, we are seeing what is happening today. The AI is evolving every day, and it still comes back to an issue of educating yourself and realizing that we can actually use those technological advancements to our advantage. AI is not a threat, but it can actually be an ally. So how can we program these technologies to be able to promote factual information? Whereas there are things like bots that are undermining, but if we can design these tools to be able to debunk information without us even being behind it. For example, there is a tool that one fact-checking organization is using that can be able to track false information. This tool can actually wake up in the morning, and every morning it gives you a list of claims. These have been made on TV, these have been made on radio, these have been made on tabloids. Organized, by the way, so it's you to filter and say, this is fact-checkable, this is not fact-checkable. So we can actually use these technological advancements to our advantage. Then the other thing is continue developing things like the Debunk Info Verifier. I know this is a marathon, it's not like a sprint, because AI literally is a learning process. It learns languages and things like that. So at the end of the day, let's continue designing such technologies, such apps that are going to help us in countering disinformation. Maybe lastly, how do we also empower the rural communities, people who also don't have access to internet and things like that? I also believe that we can teach them. Let's go to them. Let's teach them in their native languages. As Debunk, we are translating fact checks and playing them in their languages, in their radio stations. So if we debunk maybe a claim, we translate it into, let's say, Rutoro, and we put it on Voice of Toro. So the people can actually understand from there. So we are trying to cater for everybody, because everybody is looking at only AI, but they're in this context where only 12 million people have access to the internet. We are a population of what, 48 million? But 12 people have access. People who are actually active are 3 million. So I believe that we can cast the net wider and then be able to accommodate everybody.
Okay, if I'm to bring you in at the point where you said the Debunk Verifier app, so what happens to people like us that don't own smartphones, the rest of us will be left behind? How best can we, access the information on the Debunk Verifier app if we don't own a smartphone? Does everyone in this building own a smartphone? Yeah?
I think, yeah.
Yes, eh? So it's only me who owns no smartphone, eh?
You also own a smartphone. Let me fact check you. It links to what I was also talking about. It's just that at the end of the day, let's shout. Let's talk about the crisis of fact-checking, disinformation, sorry, and the real need for fact-checking. Let's put it down, not only in these rooms where there is air conditioning and things like that. Let's go to the rural communities, which is something that we are trying to do. Can we use chats? Do you want to use, pens and just use chalkboards to teach these young people who don't have these things? Can we show them the images, examples of how false information manifests? We can try, we can imagine. That's the real thing we can do. But also, they say that the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. So we can try as much. We are a lean team, we're trying to leverage AI, but we need these people here. Every journalist out there, just be a resident fact checker. First for yourself, but for your media house. And this is something that is viable. And Mahoro, this is where the future is going. So it starts really from yourself as an individual. Teach yourself. Try to be curious. Try to imagine. Thank you.
All right, a round of applause for this amazing team. At least I'm sure by the end of the day, we all know how we can better detect and counter mis and disinformation. Thank you so much, Edgar. Thank you so much, Daniel and Philly. It was a pleasure having you guys on here. Thank you so much. So earlier, I did mention that we did have sticky notes. Did everyone return their sticky notes? Because the second question was, did the session address the impact of mis and disinformation on the credibility and sustainability of media outlets? I think I've only gotten one sticky note, and the response is the session has introduced an application that is believed to have the ability to identify and solve dis or misinformation issues. Wow, interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. At this point, allow me welcome Patricia Maganda to give us our closing remarks. Thank you.
Hello. How are we? The guys at the back, can you hear me? How are we? Are we ready to debunk misinformation? Do we know how to fact check? Do we know why we had this conversation today? Okay, I'll go sampling after the panel, after the event. I'll find you. So officially, it's been a long journey. It's been a whole year, right, from 2023 into 2024. And with support of our partners, that is the Debunk Media Initiative and the US Mission in Uganda, we as Media Challenge Initiative have been able to work with them to be able to ensure that we fight mis and disinformation using various approaches. These included trainings on fact-checking and media literacy, as already mentioned, the debunk application, the Info Verifier. I hope you're able to use it beyond here and also share it in your communities. We also had stories that were done by our own winners of the fact-checking hackathon and media literacy, but also wrote stories and were awarded story grants. So I hope that from here, we are going to be able to make use of what has been shared here today. I can see someone already there trying to check out the app. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Divine. Is that the app? Is that the app? Okay, so after here, please make sure you download. This has been the second media viability conversation of this intervention. We had the first one last year. We sat together to discuss how to create a media literate public as a media industry. And today I am glad, we are glad as partners, that we've been able to disarm mis and disinformation using this platform to be able to strengthen media viability. So to the media students in the room, to the journalists here, the media professionals, the experts, the practitioners, the managers, and every one of you in your capacities, we are truly grateful for your presence today. Our online family, we don't take you for granted. Our panelists that were online, who are live streaming on the YouTube, feel free to check out this conversation later and follow it again. But also we had the hashtag MCIMV Talks. I hope you're able to go and continue the conversation. So I will stop it right there. My colleague Unia has sticky notes over there. Please feel free to rate the entire Media Viability Talks with an emoji. You just pick an emoji there and you place it over here. From Media Challenge Initiative, the Bank Media Initiative, and the US Mission in Uganda. Thank you for supporting us, and have a good evening. You're welcome to have cocktails and enjoy, and also network and learn someone today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia, and thank you each and every one of you for coming and taking off your time to come and join the conversation. We appreciate you. Don't leave as yet because there's so many people you need to connect with, foster connections, network. So you never know, your next boss is around the corner, yeah? Otherwise, thank you so, so much. Whatever went wrong, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. We shall do better next time.